On this episode, no, that's too much. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode number 3 of Austin Silver Now. So, on today's episode, we're going to tackle a huge issue that I know a lot of us are facing. And I say us because, again, I'm in the same boat with you guys on this one. We're talking about debt, all right? So before we dive in and attack debt, we need to really understand debt because I don't want to attack something that I don't know every single piece about, right? So let's break it down. We have long-term and short-term debt. Really quickly, it's self-explanatory. Short-term debt is anything that will last less than 12 months, anything less than a year. So that is credit card debt, small short-term bank loans, things like that. Anything that will be paid off in less than a year. Long-term debt, on the other hand, is anything like student loans, home mortgages, car payments, things like that that will last longer than 1 year. Easy. Once we look at short and long-term, then we have good and bad debt. And I'm sure some of you have heard this term good debt or bad debt before, but I want to explain it to you. Good debt is anything that will benefit you in the long run, make you money in the long run. College, that's a good debt. Private school, that might be considered a good debt. Owning a small business with upside potential, that's a good debt. These investments that could pay off in the long run are good debt to take on. Bad debt, on the other hand, is anything like cars, clothes, groceries, gasoline, anything like that. And you might say, Austin, how are clothes and groceries bad debt? Well, because most of the time, you're paying for it on borrowed money. You're using a credit card, right, at the grocery store most of the time. So you're paying for it with money that you readily don't have. Now that's where it turns into bad debt. So let's talk about credit card debt because I'm sure a lot of us are faced with that problem. The average American this year has $5,500 in credit card debt. Okay? That's crazy. That means that they're keeping a running balance. You never want to keep a running balance because what that does is it allows interest to build up. And I'm sure a lot of you know what interest is, but I want to explain it to you on a credit card because it's a little bit differently. We have a fixed interest rate or a variable interest rate. That's it. You have one of these two, and the only way to figure it out for yourself is to go talk to your credit card company. So let me explain the difference. A fixed interest rate on a credit card isn't very fixed. Your credit card company, under certain circumstances, has the right to change that interest rate on you and only have to let you know about it through a piece of paper and an email. That's it. So it's not very fixed. The variable interest rate is directly related to the underlying rate. The underlying interest rate is tied directly to the overall economy. So that means it fluctuates. Right now, according to bankrate.com, the fixed interest rate in our country is 13% and the variable interest rate is 16%. So you definitely want to look into your credit card and your company to see which interest rate you're paying because it's important to know that's a 3% difference. So that's the first thing. You need to know how much interest you're going to be paying if you don't make, the full payments, right? But really, the only way I can really explain the difference in how deadly interest is to you is by giving you a scenario. So I did some numbers here. We're going to do 2 scenarios, scenario A and scenario B. Across the board, here's the full situation. We have $1,000 in credit card debt at a 15% interest rate, all right? Now, with scenario A, we're going to pay off the minimum, $15 a month. That's it. With scenario B, we're going to pay off 15 plus 10, just $10 extra a month, so $25 total. So let's look at the minimum payment. If you make the minimum payment on a $1,000 credit card debt at a 15% interest rate, you're going to pay it off in 145 months with an extra $1,164 in interest. It's a lot of money you paid just because you made the minimums instead of giving them more money on the front end. Now let's look at scenario B. You make $25 a month payments. You paid off that $1,000 debt in 56 months with only $395 in interest. That's a big difference. It's exactly 89 months shorter and $769 cheaper to pay off that debt at $25 a month instead of $15. So $10 extra a month saves you 89 months of payments. Huge! You can't argue with that. So if you can make more than the minimums, guys, make more than the minimums. You need to. It's the best way to really attack that debt. But let's take a step back here and think about why we even have the debt. How did you get the debt? I'll answer that for you. You spent more than you make. You lived beyond your means, maybe one too many times, right? So really what it comes down to is you could pay off all that debt, all you want. But if you don't change your spending habits, your emotional triggers on why you're actually spending money, you're just going to continue to build debt and get stuck in the same situation that you're in now. And that's not what we want, because that's going to hold you back from success. Remember, guys, the entire reason we're doing these videos is to help you find more success. So I don't want you to be held back. So in order to not be held back from success, I need you to change your spending habits to live within your means. If you know how much money you have coming in every month, which we all should, you should know how much you can spend per month. Build a proper budget, because what that's going to allow you to do is not overspend, not accrue debt. Now, if you have debt, then you have to take the measures that it takes to chop into that debt, which takes away from your spending money. Now, when I'm taking away from your spending money, now I'm hitting you emotionally and maybe even physically too, where you don't feel good about spending your money. You're not enjoying spending your money. And that's the biggest roadblock to reaching success. Doesn't matter what your definition of success is. Happiness, wealth, fun, doesn't matter. That emotional roadblock will block the way every time. Ryan Howell, who's a psychology professor at San Francisco State University, says that the stress that comes from debt may even completely eliminate all the happiness you get from spending your money. So there's science behind this, guys, that if you have debt, you're not going to enjoy spending your money as much. You're just not. So let's stop building up debt. Let's take the right measures to paying it off, and let's change our spending habits, live within our means. Your income's going to go up. I promise. You're all successful. Your income will go up. But right now, live within your means. Don't have a running balance. Don't overspend. Be smart. We can do it. I know we can. So I want to, now you understand how this can emotionally impact you. Like, it can make you sick. When you're out with your friends, you have to give the credit card at the end of the night, and you know that you already have a $500, $600, $800 running balance. That sucks. So I'm going to give you guys 3 tips that I do to chop into my debt, and it's worked for me. So this isn't science, but it's simple and it works. So what I do is I list out all of my debts. Everything, credit card debt, student loan debt, everything, car payments, all of it. Then in a column next to it, I list the interest rate. Then I list the minimum payment. Now when I have everything written down, I organize it by highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. So step 1 is write down all the debts, the minimum payments, and the interest rates. Step 2 is to organize it highest to lowest by interest rate. Once you're there, make all the minimum payments you can, and then devote all extra cash to number 1 on the list, the highest interest rate debt. So pay off the minimums and put all the extra cash towards the highest interest rate debt. That will slowly start to chop down that list faster than you thought possible. I promise. It really works. It's so simple. So if you have a lot of debt and they're coming from different angles, that's a really good way to attack it. So try that out. Drop some comments below. Let me know how it works for you. I'm just curious. All right? I hope everyone is doing what we talked about last week, putting that 10% aside. And I hope that today you got some value out of this debt talk. And we're going to come back to this stuff because it's a huge issue. But remember, organize your debt, highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, pay your minimums, and then put all the extra cash towards your highest interest rate debt and start chopping away at that list. But more importantly than all of that, guys, spend within your means. Live within your means, and we're going to be on the quick path to success. Okay? So thank you for watching episode 3, and I'll see you guys next week in episode number 4.